This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it honest.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 21st, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I am a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the Director of Investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. To Super Chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. Remember that all donations go back into the mission. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on the new project development and investigations. I'm going to shout out right now to an Allison Yellowknee because she just became a member today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Just click the big blue button that says join too. That's how you become a member. So our guest for season 3, episode 33 is Mary Ann Bisson. I hope I said that right. I forgot to ask you how to say that. That's weird. Season 3, episode 33, 333. I'm just noticing that. So Mary Ann is a certified consulting hypnotherapist and a member of the Manitoba Hypnotherapists Association and the National Guild of Hypnotists. She's also a certified Reiki Master, bilingual spiritual health coach, psychic medium, and a certified angel card reader. Marianne can provide distant Reiki treatments for clients, their pets, and offer transmission of light DNA activations. Very curious about what that is. Her office is in Lorette, just 10 minutes south of Winnipeg, Manitoba, right here in Canada. She also volunteers as an investigative profiler to a group based in the USA dedicated to helping families locate missing loved ones. I am also interested in that. Marianne believes that distance has no barriers because spirit is energy to which we are all connected. So Marianne, welcome. Put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Did I say your name right?
Well, it's French, so in French we pronounce it Bisson, but Bisson, doesn't matter. It's all good.
Okay, so I was wrong.
It's all in translation.
A fellow Canadian should have known that.
It's okay.
It's all good. So welcome. Okay, so we're gonna start as usual with a icebreaker from the Demon Guy Morrison. So
Good.
1 second.
Bring it on.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what that is, so Tim, the Demon Guy Morrison, he will give me an icebreaker. I'm going to read that for the first time, and we're going to answer that question and go from there. So his question is, if you could go back in time and give your parents advice before you were born, what would it be? Advice.
About feeling good about yourself, having your own inner strength so that you can do what's right for yourself and not just for others. Because I find sometimes people are so invested in helping others that they're not taking time to find their own strengths. And I think that's really important. That's what I would say for that.
That's good. Yeah, do you think they'd listen? They listened to you? You went back and told them that?
I can't say that. I'm not sure, but I think it's good advice, though.
Okay. I don't know what I would say. Maybe I'd probably go back and say, I don't know. I have no idea. My family's strange.
So is mine. It's all good.
It's all good. All right. Thank you, Tim, for that icebreaker. So welcome. This is, and you divulged to me, I learned this today. This is your first podcast ever. Right. So please relax. Don't worry about it. We had a good conversation before we started. We're just gonna have a conversation. I'm curious to know, why you're the way that you are, how this all started. So let's just, like, how far back do you want to go? Go to the beginning. How did you get into this?
Into this. Well, I don't know if it's the into this. You just kind of start off. When I was really young, I always was scared sleeping by myself. Okay, I remember this from the age of 4. It's kind of weird how I can recall memories from that age. But I was always terrified of sleeping in my own room. And my mom had to put me to sleep to share a room with one of my siblings, my sisters, because I couldn't sleep by myself. I was always scared. I always thought someone was staring at me, so I was always frightened. And then I had this unusual nightmare, repetitive nightmare, where I was at my aunt's farm, and an arm would come through the window and try to pull me out of the window. And then I would dodge it by rolling off the side of the bed. I would run downstairs. The parents were playing cribbage. And then I would have to run outside as this thing is chasing me. And there's like a row of trees and an outhouse. And I had to hide in the outhouse. But I had to go and hide. So this nightmare, oh my God, it continued for years into my teens even. And a couple of times I'd have sleep paralysis. And so it kind of started there. Okay, I didn't understand what the meaning of all of that was, how it fit together until later on. So I'll kind of move past that into, and I'll just bring it up again later. Growing up, it became evident really when I was really young, my early teens, I guess maybe. I was aware of different things that would happen, like premonitions and things like that. I'd have dreams. A dream would come and repeat itself over and over again until the incident happened. To give you an example, I had a dream that a man, he went off the side of a bridge and his legs were cut off in my dream. Oh, and it was a plane crash by a bridge, and that the body without the legs flew through my sister's home's window, whatever, and this body landed on top of my nephew. That was a dream I kept on having for weeks until a man crashed. It wasn't a plane crash, a car crash by the bridge right across from my sister's house. And so anyways, so apparently his legs were severed. I'm not certain about that part, and the dream stopped right after that. I had a friend another time. She went missing, and everyone was like, all the friends, all the teenagers were hanging out together trying to figure out what happened. We were all scared and talking about it. And then I saw an image flash in my mind, vision of her in a fetal position. So I was terrified because I thought something happened to her, and it hadn't. She had actually fallen asleep, unusual circumstance, but she had fallen asleep under a stairwell at work. She went to lay down, and that's where they found her. So I didn't, it's putting those pieces together, trying to understand what you're seeing and things like that.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, you're having these dreams and then they're happening in real life. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So you thought it was a plane crash in this dream, and then later on a car crash happened in this.
Exactly where I saw it, right.
So how much time between you waking and that happening? Or did it already happen?
You mean from when I had the dream to when it actually happened?
Yeah.
Sometimes it would happen within a couple of weeks normally. At the time, when I was my teen years, pardon me. So those situations would happen all the time. And then just to give you a little bit of background about my brother, my mom, her firstborn child was a boy. And he died. He was only a couple of hours old. He wasn't fully, his organs hadn't fully developed. Okay, so he died a couple of hours after he was born. And all my life, I never knew him. I was the baby of the family. There was, my siblings that came between us. But I always felt his presence around me. And every time I was upset or anything, I would sense him around me, which was kind of unusual. Like I said, no one knew him because he was the firstborn. And yet I went through this a really frightening experience in my teens. And my mom walked into the room and she says, "Here, Marianne, I think this was meant for you." And it was the cross on my brother's coffin. Okay. And she had no knowledge of that either. She just sensed that I should have it. So I'm going to be jumping a little bit just so you understand. But in my 20s, I'm going to have to jump back. I'm just going to go back later on about how my brother, I'm sorry to jump around, but you'll understand it falls into the
You do what's comfortable. Don't worry. There's no test at the end.
That's a good thing. It falls into just the part of the story in the future, what happened later on. Then I started becoming very sensitive. I noticed I was sensitive to spirits. We grew up in a haunted house. Okay, so I grew up French Catholic house, and fortunately, I had sisters and my parents are actually kind of open to it. They never had their own experiences, but they're open to discussing with us. So we'd sit around the table Sunday, dinner time, and we talk about all these like wild paranormal experiences that we had in our family. And so we were really comfortable and open, which is really a great thing because I have a lot of clients that come to me and they have no one to turn to, no support. And that's why you're here too, for those people who don't are uncomfortable to discuss it, or they get humiliated, mocked for bringing these things up. So I appreciate that I was the weird girl because a lot of people knew that I was the one to turn to if they had anything that they wanted to discuss without being ridiculed, someone to listen to them. And I still get that today, that people just reach out to me and because they've seen some of my posts or something with my business or whatever, just my personal post talking about the subject. So they know I'm a safe person to talk to. And that's what I want to do. I want to be that safe person for people to turn to. So we would discuss it, but our house was haunted. And my first experience with spirit, like on a personal level, it was my grandpa. It was a month after he passed away. It was over the Christmas holidays. And I was gone to bed already. My sister was in the basement. And as I learned later, things were starting to move around the house. And she intuitively sensed that it was my grandpa. And then she heard footsteps and things upstairs. And when she came to sleep, she was afraid. And she came to sleep with me, came in bed with me because she was too scared to sleep on her own. And she asked me, she just told me this later because I don't have any recollection of this. She said, was that you walking upstairs, Marianne? I said, no, it was Papa, which means grandpa in French. I said, he came to talk to me. And she said, what did he say? And I said, it's too complicated. I'll tell you in the morning. The next day, again, I had no recollection of it. It turns out my other sibling also had her own experiences. She just had some vision that she saw of my grandparents' clock. So it took some time. I always wanted to know why my grandpa came to talk to me, and why me, why come talk to me? He was closer to my siblings and my cousins than I was. And I only learned later through an intuitive reader. She explained that he came to tell me that he was concerned and he wanted to get a message across to my grandma, his wife, and to tell her that not to worry, that he made it across. And I didn't understand the meaning behind that at all until I spoke to some family members. And I learned that in his later years, my grandma was concerned if he had a couple of drinks or something that he was drinking too much, the old strong Catholic faith and stuff. And so, but my guides had apparently prevented me from having that message. I would have been way too young, as if you can go to your grandma and tell her, Grandma, Grandpa said he's okay, not to worry about him. He made it through. And so that, that's how my understanding was that I was stopped from getting that information. So I found it, and it really made sense when I heard that, because it resonated, and it made sense with what I had heard from the family members, about the story about my grandpa. So that was my first experience with the mediumship. The mediumship, if you will, him trying to communicate with me. I did have other experiences. Later on, it turns out I had a spirit come to me to tell me that my cousin was pregnant. My cousin had been trying to conceive and had trouble conceiving. And so just before, I don't really want to get into particulars about who it was, but just before he passed away, he came to me and said that with every death, there's a birth, and that she was pregnant. And as it turns out, although she had been trying to conceive for a long time, she ended up getting pregnant, and she had, her miracle baby, right? So what a beautiful message. I was so blessed to be part of that experience. And then after that, it seemed like every time there's a pregnancy, I would have a dream. And it's really odd how these dreams present themselves for me, for the birth. And I wake up from an extremely depressing dream. It feels like I'm dreaming of someone's death. Isn't that odd? It's the reverse. I don't know why it comes like that to me, but that's the way it would present itself to me. I'd wake up about someone's death, and I'd wake up, that a really heavy feeling, and I would know that was a pregnancy. And at the time, I know it's a little weird. Well, I don't understand why it's reversed like that, but
we don't really know how it's supposed to happen. You're the one with the contact, right? So maybe that's normal. That could be normal. It's just not what we would expect from what we understand in this reality.
Right, exactly. And you take it the way it is. There's no right or wrong way for people to receive the messages. And sometimes people, I've even had conversations with a group of psychics who will tell me, oh, I wish I got my messages like you, received them like you. And the other one, oh, I wish I saw them. And the other one, oh, I wish I would, experience it the way you do. Even in at the round table of the psychics, we all have our own, oh, I wish I was like that, or I would see it the way that you do. I find it really interesting. So it's kind of a neat conversation, right? How everyone gets that information. So those things started happening with the pregnancies, and that was one of the things that would start coming. And I'm just trying to think. And then the haunted house. I've lived in a few haunted places before. I moved into an apartment, and it was funny because the night before I signed the lease, I had a dream that a man died in my apartment. Okay, that was in Winnipeg where I live. A man died in my apartment. That was the dream, and that he was going to haunt me there. So the next day, I go sign the lease at the apartment. And the lady, as I'm signing it, I said, can you tell me, did someone die in my apartment? And she was silent. And she completely ignored me. So I asked her again. I asked her, did someone die in the apartment? And she ignored me again. I think I asked her 3 times. And finally she said, oh, he was such a nice man and everything. She said, who told you? And I said, I had a dream. And she didn't believe me because she kept on asking me, who told you, I learned later that she told the staff there that, like the caretakers in the apartment, that they weren't supposed to discuss it with anybody. So a man died in my suite, and they only found him a few days later in the washroom. So I go move in, and immediately things started happening. I started dating a guy at the time, and when he died in the washroom, like I was saying. When I went into the washroom and I was getting ready, all of a sudden it was the creepiest thing. I felt an arm around my waist, and I thought it was my boyfriend at the time coming home. So I turned around and I looked, and there was nobody there. And there was a stench in the washroom. You know, it's this kind of sad too, but a stench in the washroom from his death because he had been there a few days. And I had to find out what to do to clean it out. It was pure Javix. I knew someone that worked in the pathology lab, and they told me to use pure Javix. It's the only thing that worked to get rid of the smell. But I always felt like I was being watched in that apartment. It was frightening. And then one time I was in the kitchen, and then I went into the living room, and a couple of minutes later I go back in the kitchen. All the kitchen cupboard doors were all open. And what else happened in that thing? Just a bunch of things. And so one day we set up a camera. I believe I said to you, I got laughed at a lot because I took pictures inside a washroom, but took a picture and set a camera up facing the washroom with a candle burning in the background, just so we have a bit of light. And then we connected the camera to a TV so we can watch it in real time. Okay. And my cat was sitting back there watching.
That's kind of smart. I like that.
Watching into the washroom. She just sat there watching. Yeah. And all of a sudden, when we started speaking to the man that passed away there, because my boyfriend at the time had met him before, as we're watching and we started communicating with him, telling him, you don't have to stay here, and just trying to open a conversation with him. All of a sudden, the camera went completely out of focus. And if you saw my cat, she was sitting behind the TV watching, and all of a sudden her eyes shifted as she's watching something, as if it came out of the washroom and went into the bedroom. And then she watched as it came back. Then it went out of focus again, and then it cleared up. So the picture I sent in the email, I don't know if you noticed it, but there's a before and after image of when it went out of focus. So
I'm just scrolling through. I'm listening to you. I'm just looking at the other screen.
Yeah. After that night, that was the end. We told him, to move on, and everything was okay. And so he left, but it was pretty scary, like living in that and having all these things happen in the apartment. I've never had that much activity before in my life, especially when I was touched. That was a really eerie feeling. It was as solid as feeling a person's arm around me. A human person's body, wrap their arms around my waist.
Okay. I found the picture. So let me just share the screen for.
Like I said, I got laughed at. Pictures of a toilet, but you can see.
Yeah. So sorry about the background. I wasn't really.
You can even expand the second one, maybe, or whatever.
Well, I'm trying to do that without showing all your stuff here, but if you're okay with that.
Oh, it doesn't matter yet. Free for all.
Okay.
So that's
all right. So I can make that's as big as I can make.
Yeah.
That for now.
Good. So that was my apartment where the man passed away, and then the second one is the foggy one. You can see the difference. And so that was a screenshot from the VHS, because that's what we were using at the time, right? The old VHS video camera. So, and that's when my cat was following it out of the washroom. So
interesting. So with the candle, you said, so this is a candle that's lit then, right? Or a light?
You know what? I'm guessing because it was on that side. Is that the glow from it right away? You know what?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is how it's blurred, but the light's still in focus. So
you know what? I'm not certain if that is the light, because I thought it was lower. Okay. Like lower. So I'm not certain if that's the light, if that's just a reflection, that one.
It's interesting.
To be fair, yeah. But this is where all of a sudden, as soon as we started speaking, it went completely out of focus. And then that's when the cat was following. So it's kind of neat to capture pictures, even though, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's like it's that's the thing, right? Like it sees things that we can't, and you set it up right. You, as far as an experiment would go, and you tried to capture something, and you activated the ability, or however that works, and then you got a response. So the trouble that we have in this is there's no validation to confirm if that response was technical or spiritual. Like it could be either or.
Absolutely, I get that.
Yeah. But it's still a good coincidence as far as the timing in between. And we do have other science that shows, and I'm sure you know too, with you doing Reiki on animals as well. That animals do have the ability to sense spirits as well, or something
absolutely.
In other dimensions.
You know what? Absolutely. My cat, that cat was so sensitive. And like I said, she was following it. Whatever she was looking at, was following it. But my other cat right now too, I've had him chatter in the hallway. He'll just sit there, look up and start chattering. And one time I just sensed a presence. And then I looked at my cat. I was in my room and I look at him. He jumped off the floor. He was turned facing the corner of the wall, looking up, chatting, like beep, 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 right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he got scared and he jumped like a big fat cat, all four off the ground, because whatever it was, it really startled him. And so I've had that before a few times with him. And that cat, the first one in that apartment in 1994, my cat was 19 years old, or a month shy of 19 when she passed away. And the night that she died, I was in the bedroom, and by the ensuite, I could hear her jump on the toilet, jump on the counter where her watering bowl was. That's what she did every day. I put fresh water up on the counter, spoiled cat, up by the sink. And that's what she'd do. She'd jump up on the toilet and jump up on the counter. So it was really, really neat too, because I could hear her. That was the only time she came to visit. I also had some pet hens. Okay, I love chickens. Okay. Incredible pets, yeah. And I had brought them to they told the farmers they were going to butcher the chickens. They keep them a couple of years and they butchered them. So after I brought the chickens over there, I looked out my patio door and I saw them. I saw my I saw one of the two chickens only. And I thought, that's really weird. I must be imagining it because I could only see one of the birds, right? And I learned later that one of the birds, they missed taking him to the butchers. And so there was only one bird that died. So when I saw the one chicken instead of the two, like I assumed there should be, that was the reason why, because there was only one that had been captured. They missed one. So it's it's pretty neat.
That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So as I continue, like for me after those experiences, so one of the scary or more frightening experiences I had was my cousin's house. So every time I was really connected with her, every time something weird would happen at her home, something seemed to simultaneously happen at my place too. So she'd kind of call me up. We have this relationship. She'd call me up and say, "Hey, Marianne, anything happening at your place? My house is acting up." And it was happening simultaneously, you would say, right? So one day she asked me to come to her house because things were flaring up and all kinds of crazy things. Like she'd be cutting something on the cutting board, and then all of a sudden she'd turn around and then she'd look back and it was missing. And sometimes she didn't tell me this part of the time, but she would find it in another part of the house. All right. So she asked me to go to her house to see if I could pick up on anything. Just like I said, I was very sensitive to energies around the house. So I came in through the front door, walked through the rooms, the living room, the bathroom. I didn't sense anything. Through the kitchen, I didn't feel anything at all. But as I was walking out the house, I exited through the side door. And then that's when it hit me. It felt like I got hit with a bat from behind. I turned around, I looked downstairs. I said, that's where it's coming from. So I went downstairs and I pinpointed the area that I felt where the energy was coming from. And it was by her furnace, right? And she admitted that that's where things were reappearing by her furnace. So events were continuing like that. And so, stupid ass, my other cousin came and we decided to take out the Ouija board. Okay. My kids aren't allowed to use it anymore. So we took the Ouija board out and we thought, I had this image pop in my mind of a POW. I believe there was a POW.
Okay.
oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I have to go back a little bit. It wasn't a POW. When we were asking the questions, I don't remember what the questions were. It was an SS. It looked like a military man, and my other cousin thought it was an SS soldier.
Okay.
And I'm going to get these things. There's so many different things, events that happened in this experience, so I might get them mixed up here. But
it's okay.
It was the military. My cousin, by the way, I was describing it, thought it was SS. And then we saw two military men escort this man to, and then all of a sudden it was like a flame, okay, like a big fire. So after we did this, we're trying to tell the spirit to go into the light, like you kind of see in the movies, being naive, not understanding what you're doing, just kind of horsing around. Well, I shouldn't say horsing around, but thinking we're doing the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're proud of ourselves talking about it. And in the meantime, my other cousin went to the washroom. She came back running and grabbed me and said, "Look at my eyes, the answer's in my eyes." And that's when I saw a POW. This really, really thin man, right? And he was in baggy clothing, just standing there. So we assumed that it was like a POW that died and didn't accept his death. And so as we're sitting there after that, kind of, patting ourselves on the shoulder, oh yeah, we helped him to go into the light and everything, I had this really eerie feeling. And I remember telling them that I felt like, just keep your guard up. I just felt like something was going on. Something was going to happen. Like I felt like we were being ambushed. That's probably the right word to use. We were being ambushed. And one cousin was sitting behind the table, kind of back against the wall, the other one on one side, and I had my back to the kitchen. And there was 1.2, we smelled, my cousin says, "Oh, it smells like gasoline." And I'm like, yeah, I could smell it. The smell was getting so strong in the house. And all of a sudden the other cousin said, "Oh no, it smells like kerosene." She identified it as kerosene specifically, right? And that was nauseating. And then there was a brief moment also of smelling like burning flesh. It was really repulsive, and that left. But as we're sitting around the table and I'm telling them, keep your guard up, something's wrong. All of a sudden I saw my cousin behind the table. She jumped up and she's screaming, kicking her legs. And this is like the movies, it's crazy. But the other cousin literally jumped over the chair, ran outside, and I turned around to run away, but I knew, something told me, if you run away now, fear is going to take over, and this thing is going to win through fear, right? We know the power of fear, what it does. So I turned around and I told it to leave. I said, you can't bother, like, leave us alone, go away. And so one cousin ran into the bedroom, the other one outside. I chased her. And I told her, and she was just praying and crying, hysterical outside. I told her she had to come back in the house and we had to face this. So we went in, got my other cousin, grabbed the dog, and we left. Thank God the kids weren't there that day, because I don't know what would have happened. So we left. I didn't realize what had happened other than hearing the screams and one of them kicking the legs. When we left, they told me I hadn't felt anything physically. One had red marks across the calves, as if something came through the floor and grabbed her calves. You could see like handprints across her legs. The other cousin said that when she went to reach to help, she felt something pull her back and had a red mark across her chest. When I asked after how long it lasted, I said, "Oh, it lasted a few hours." She said it lasted a couple of days. And red marks. This is the first time I've ever seen anyone marked. So I would have been 18, maybe 19 at the time when that happened, right? Another time I had gone to visit, a priest did come to this house and blessed it twice. Okay. So that was one of the things that happened. I had gone to watch a movie after that even, and the lights went on and off by themselves. And we looked at each other and we're like, no, we didn't want to accept that, oh my God, it's still here, right? That this was still happening. One of my good friends, one of my best friends, I was telling her about this haunted house and she didn't believe me. So I brought her with me there. And as we're sitting around the table, something was going on. She recalls, what I've done is I've collected all the stories, everyone's point of view, and I put it all together in the book. In my book, I could discuss after. But so when we were sitting there talking about the house, a bag of chips that was behind us on the fridge went like there was no animal, nothing that could have done that. The bag of chips went flying across the kitchen. Okay, the reminder that whatever it was still there. I had friends, two psychics, come in with me into the house to help us out to see what was going on. And one of them described that man that I saw, really thin man, with the baggy clothing, because he was so thin, right? And so he'd seen the same man that I had seen. So just a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, I spoke to an intuitive who told me about this house when I was discussing it. She had a flash that what the story was is that my cousin, who's blonde, and okay, let me see how she explained it. She said that during the war, this was like a World War II, and that because she was blonde, she was with her partner or husband or whatever, she told the guards that she was actually German.
Okay.
To escape her death, right? And she let to save herself, and her partner died, and it was him that was bitter and resentful against her for doing that. So that is how it was explained to me, and that would make sense to me too. It resonated too. So that was a really scary experience. After that, it took me some time to calm down, settle down. After that, it was a really frightening experience, right? But I find that whenever we go through these things, I'm sure you've probably had similar experiences. Some things are really scary or whatever, but every time something like this happens to you, it really helps you to be able to help someone else with the same situation in the future. You're more educated, you're more informed, and it gives you the ability to help people after that too, who go through the same thing, right? So people ask me to go through their homes in the past to see if I pick up on anything in their homes and stuff like that. So I've helped people in those situations as well too. So I've had the scary stuff, I've had the premonitions and different things like that. So that was good. But after 25 years of service with the travel industry, I took early retirement. Something had to give. I was overwhelmed. I was divorced, living from my house, basically, paying the bills for a house by myself after the divorce. And things changed, and I needed to take some time for my family, take some time off, and take some time for myself. I was overstretched. So what I did is I took early retirement, much to my dad's chagrin, because he didn't want me to, what are you doing, right? Why are you risking your future, taking early retirement and losing a lot of money doing that? So I made that choice, and then I retired. I sold my home in the city, that more than I could ever afford. And I took my kids. That was hard for them, but I took my kids out to the country and I downsized. And I finally had a little bit more time for myself as well as for my kids. And during that period, I started taking courses and stuff like that of interest. I ended up opening my business. It's called The Doorway in 2014. I had taken the Reiki, hypnotherapy, and I'll explain about the hypnotherapy, how that came to be, because in 1994, I was actually regressed to. I was someone's guinea pig when they were practicing or learning how to do hypnotherapy.
Okay.
I didn't know what hypnotherapy, or if I even believed in regressions or reincarnations at the time. So, but I was still I tried it out, and I had very successful experiences. I recall I went through a time in Africa, and I saw myself when I died. I was quite young, but I knew it was natural. I was up on scaffolding during a full moon, and they burnt me when I died. And it was really fascinating. It didn't surprise me I went to Africa, because all the decor in my home at the time had African motif. So that was really neat, And so that was the one in Africa. I went to one in, where was I? In Scotland. And in that lifetime, my father had died at sea. And it was amazing because I still have that sketch I did of those past lives. So every time I have a new client come in, I always show them what I did. And I always, recommend that they draw what their experiences are. Because from 1994, I have my sketches, right?
Drawings are very important. A lot of people don't think of drawing. They think they must have to take pictures and things like that. So that's good. Good for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a great way to share. You know what I mean? Sharing your experiences. Probably people don't tired of
it's an expression too, because then you're looking at it and then you're like, that was in my mind, and then wow, this is real, or that's silly, or it helps. It helps too.
You know what? The one in Scotland, so it starts off, I drew out my house, the interior of the house, and my mom's screaming for me because I'm sitting looking out at the ocean. And because my dad died at sea, she was really upset with me, and she knew I was drawn to the water, and she didn't want me to be. She didn't want to lose me too. So in my life, I felt I had to take care of my mom. And so I remember so many details. It was crazy about being in a quick relationship, but my girlfriend had left me. I was male in that lifetime. My girlfriend had left me because I didn't want to leave my mom. You know what I mean? And so I felt indebted to her. So I did metal work. I remember that too. I had my, I can't even think of the word right now, so I'm just going to move it. I had died when I went back into regression. I saw myself dead in bed, and I had died of alcoholism because I died of loneliness after my mom died, and I was quite young. I looked like Brutus from Popeye. That's what I looked like. And yeah, it's funny. So I had died of alcoholism. Well, what I find interesting is that in this lifetime, 13 years ago, I quit drinking. Okay. So I always wondered if there was an association there with that, like the karma from that past life and that experience. And in this lifetime, how I quit drinking too. So I always kind of put those two together and made sense to me. Okay. Another thing in that regression, those first ones, I described all of a sudden I was traveling by 3 planets on the left side of 3 planets or stars or whatever it was, right? And all of a sudden I hesitated and I snapped out of the regression. And I never knew what that was about until later on when I was taking my training and I went for my own regressions, right? My own experiences. So how that came to be is when I had this time off for myself after I left the airline, whatever, after I left, I went for my own regression because I had really low self-esteem. And I went to find out what the root cause of my low self-esteem was. So I went to see the hypnotherapist, and when he brought me back, it was really amazing because you know those things when you don't know what the answer is going to be and it really shocks you. So during my regression, what surfaced, he asked me, okay, so is this from a past lifetime, the root cause, or a current lifetime? Because a regression doesn't have to be from a past lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. And I said from the current one, okay, before your birth, during your birth, after your birth. I said during my birth. And I was being born, and as soon as I was born, I sensed that my mom loathed me and that my dad was disappointed because my parents had their son that they lost, and my mom felt I was the last chance for her to have a boy, to give her husband a son. And that was the reason why I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And I wouldn't have even thought of that. I was hoping I was Cleopatra, something exciting, Again, you want this grand experience, but it with regressions, it's not always that, right? We're trying to find the root cause of that, and that's where it brought me to. Then all of a sudden, I said to the hypnotherapist, I said, my brother's here. And he says, your brother's there? He says, what do you mean? Is your brother deceased? I said, yeah, he's passed away. And I said, he's coming to me. And he said to me, the reason why I always felt him around, do you remember I was saying I was sensed him around before? Was because I would be the one suffering the most because of his death. And so that's why he was around me all the time to support me. So I thought that was so beautiful, right? So I went home. I couldn't ask my parents because obviously they wouldn't want to admit that, to their child. But it made sense because, the old traditional belief of, you have to have a son to carry on the family name and those kind of things. So I knew my parents would never want to admit it. And, I'm not holding any animosity about that either. But it explained my relationship with my brother as well, too. That brought me that understanding as well. So I took a couple of weeks before I could share it with anybody, with my partner, because I had to digest what I had just learned, right? But after that, that's what drew me to taking my own hypnotherapy training. I wanted to offer that to people so they can experience what I had experienced. And, you know, not everybody believes in past lives or reincarnation. And what's important or not important is that you don't have to believe in reincarnations to reap the benefits from the hypnosis. What's important, I mean, sometimes people can think that or believe that it's only the way, like a way for the subconscious to present the information to you, so in a way that you'll understand it, right? So it'll give you the information to make it look like a past life or like a storyline, if you will. And it doesn't matter if you believe in the reincarnation or not, we're still doing the work. And as long as you get the message, that's how you get the healing, and you can really benefit from it. So although I believe in reincarnation, I don't expect my clients to. And it's not a matter of which faith you are, what religion you are. I mean, I always ask my clients, like, what's your belief system? And I always, you know, tell them it doesn't matter what you believe in. I've had every, you know, faith denomination come through my office, you know, whether you're a Buddhist or Muslim, Catholic, it doesn't matter. But I like to use, the reason I ask them is only because, if they want to share it, is only because that way I can use words in my scripts when I create a script for the clients and use words that resonate with them. It's really important that we respect, and there's a lot of lack of that, respect everybody's belief systems and support that, right? It's not, I'm not here to make someone change their mind about what their belief system is. I just want to be there available to support them with whatever that is. And that's really, really important, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And because we have various opinions on many things and subjects, and people really are intent on their belief, and even though those beliefs can't be proven, they also believe them so much that they're willing to defend it, even though there's no evidence to do so as well. So if you're able to make them feel comfortable, then that's a really good thing. For me, regression, like I've experimented, I've seen it, I've used it as a tool. From an investigative point of view, I would refer someone to a regression hypnotherapist if I got somewhere into my investigative process where there's a blockage in the mind. So we kind of want to see what's beyond that blockage and understand what that blockage is, not looking for anything in particular, just trying to go past that moment in which they're stuck, that stuck point. And sometimes the information that comes through, as raw as it is, it's not always ET. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's trauma. Sometimes it's like trauma from other sources.
Yeah, you were describing that before in the last week, right? Talking about how something else surfaced, for sure.
So how would you handle that? Like say, I mean, I don't have no other way to really explain it, but say they think they're abducted by an alien, and you do some regression, and then all of a sudden you ask for the description of the person or the entity, and it's described as a human that looks like someone that they know, and they're talking about, you know, sexual abuse. Like how would you handle that?
So I will explain exactly. So here's something, when you ask him to describe, you said the being or doing whatever. So I have to be careful how I say this, because, or I want to explain this clearly, I should say, is that, you know, like forensic style investigations, right? So you can't ask, did you see an entity? So just to be clear, I have to make sure that when I ask,
so no open-ended question. So, you know, what do you see? No
open-ended and no suggestions. So if they did not describe or mention having seen an entity, I will not ask if they saw an entity.
Good.
I'll ask them
That's
just
good.
to describe, what are you seeing? You know, can you describe anything? You know, whatever. So that's called forensic style questioning, and that's what I do. But also, I mean, sometimes when clients come, you got to remember that our subconscious is there to also protect us, right? my role, there's different reasons why they come, but my role is not to try to push to get everything out in one shot. I'm not trying to create a story. I'm not trying to create a book. I'm here to protect the client, right? I know a lot of people, they want to have all that information all at once. I don't think that that's necessarily the best approach when you're doing this, because you can traumatize them. You have to be careful what you're dealing with and understand your client, understand their needs, what their desire, their intentions, because not everybody wants to have all the information at once. Sometimes it's just to find out if what they experienced was real or not. Again, it's not to push to the point of, damaging them. I could create PTSD, more trauma to them, by continuously pushing the envelope. Sometimes their subconscious will do that. And to prevent us from, it doesn't have to be with experiencers. It could be with anybody. I've had a client, all of a sudden, they said they're on the beach and there's a huge cement wall that just all of a sudden appeared. And you know what? I recognized it right away when they were talking. I can't get around this wall. And it wasn't time. If it's not, I wouldn't feel right pushing them into getting that answer. Obviously, they're not ready. And I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be that hypnotherapist to push those boundaries. I understand there's ways to get around it. But again, cautiously, and I have to be informed before they come to deal with that stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of liability, and that's good that you take those precautions. It's good that you care that much. It's good that you acknowledge all those risks before you engage, and you spend all this time being prepared to and I like that you said that you're not here to write a book, you're not here to make a circus out of it. You're there to treat, you're there to care, you're there to help, and there are some people that do this pseudoscience, this regression, and they do abuse it because sometimes we don't have to get into details about cost and things like that too. But I mean, even time is valuable to some people, so some should be valuable to everybody. But so there's a lot of hidden methods or motives behind these techniques and things like that too. So what I'm hearing is that your priority is above all is taking care of the individual, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to push a client. I mean, I would rather them return a couple of times when they're ready. Sometimes just a little bit will come through, and then they're a little bit overwhelmed after it happens, and they're still questioning and stuff. So there's a lot of dynamics to what's presenting itself. I have heard of situations where some of my clients have said that someone's approached them, I'll regress you and, try to get more information. And that kind of sounds the alarms for me. I get a little bit concerned that
they might as well put on a police uniform, walk up and ask some questions and interrogate them. You want them to feel
want to be careful, and I want them to be careful. So I always say, be careful, even how much you share publicly on sometimes on certain times, because again, I don't think that it's for their best interest, for their well-being, if I push through, or if someone pushes through to get everything all at once. I think that is overwhelming, especially due to the circumstances, right?
And that can lead into your Reiki as well. If they're feeling uneasy afterwards, you can calm them down.
I've had to too. So I'm going to share an experience I had with a client that came in once. So not knowing what was going to surface, because I didn't expect this was going to come out at all. Client came because they were very stressed out. They were having panic attacks all the time. And they came for a regression to try to uncover why this was happening. So I will say to you, Ryan, more of my clients that have come have been what we refer to as starseed versus the experiencer. Okay. And I I'm not one who gets really stuck on the words and terminology, because it's finding out,
it's interesting because I was asked that question on my lunchtime video on, I think, Monday, my opinion on starseed. So what's your, and now I'm hearing it here at the end of the week, so that's weird because we've never really.
That's why it's coming up. I'm sure, because that's how that works, right? Things, we learn information or hear about something right at the same
So what is
time.
a starseed to you, though? What is it by definition? How is that?
Someone coming from like elsewhere, another planet. We've all come from elsewhere, but that have come to do some work on this planet, to assist on the planet.
Okay.
And when this client came through, all of a sudden this information of experiences on other planets, or we have parallel lifetimes as well too, that we can experience multiple lifetimes that happen simultaneously. My understanding is that's a way that we can have more experiences all at once. You know what I mean? So we can do more work. But people have different reasons why they come to Earth to have, like, to come to help, right? And they don't have to be big, grand reasons. It doesn't have to be a big, grand purpose. It could be something simple, just as being that beacon of light, of support for some of the people that are here. So I found a lot of clients that come, even unknowingly, discover that they've come from another planet. They've been assigned to come here to help on different levels, to do different things. That was, like I said, I didn't even know when I started hypnotherapy, what that was. I wasn't even familiar with starseed until later on, when I started doing more research, because I couldn't understand why so many of these people were coming to my door. I found it really. Is that your?
That's me. I got.
Yeah.
Busy area today.
So this client that came to me that was having anxiety attacks, it turns out it was connected to an experience from a past life or a parallel life. It's hard to tell them apart, on another planet, as a being on another planet. And after that, it came to light. I don't want to get into the specifics because it's.
That's okay.
I don't feel right sharing that right now, but so we did get an understanding of why she was experiencing this. But at the end of that session, or it could have been her following session, she said something really interesting. She said, the client that's coming to see you, the reason they're afraid of snakes isn't because of the snakes. They're afraid of the reptilians. It's the eyes and the tongue. And I was freaking out, because I was surprised to hear that, right? So it had nothing to do with snakes. The fear was because of the reptilians. A couple days later, the other client comes in. I never discussed it with the client. And as we're doing the regression, I was not able to regress them. And after the session, we sat at the table. And like I said, unfortunately, I wasn't able to regress this client. As we're sitting there, I said, yeah, it's really, we dealt with other concerns that we had in the session, but we weren't able to address this fear of snakes. That was the thing, right? As we're sitting there discussing it, all of a sudden they said, yeah, I don't understand. I've always been afraid of reptilians. I said, pardon me? And she says, I've always been afraid of reptilians. I said, did you just hear what you said? And she said, no. I said, you didn't say reptiles. You didn't say snakes. You said reptilians. And I didn't push it. I just left it, because if they weren't able to, if they were blocked at that point, it wasn't my place to start feeding the information to them. But it was the client beforehand that had warned me that this was what the case was. So that was really interesting. That was
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of coincidence. So we have to get to commercial. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna intro the commercial. It's about 5 minutes. I'm just telling you because you haven't done this before, and then you can just take a little bit of a break. But we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Is that okay? You're doing great. This is amazing. All right, I just got to find my thing. So we'll pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or future podcasts, head over to youtube.com/The Experiencer Support Association to see the video that goes with the audio. Remember that you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, which is a podcast